I see a lot of people over 60 waiting until the timing is perfect, putting things off until next year, until the stock market recovers, until they feel more secure, waiting until they're absolutely certain. And on the surface, that sounds perfectly sensible, prudent even. But sometimes it's none of those things. Sometimes it's just fear wearing a disguise. You've probably heard yourself saying it. I know I do. Let's do it next year. Let's wait until things settle down. Let's just be a little bit more careful. Let's wait until things are a bit more certain. And the strange thing is, it sounds perfectly responsible until you realise you've been saying the same thing now for the last 5 years. Because one of the things I've noticed as I've got older is that life doesn't stay open forever. There are windows of opportunity for travel and adventure, for energy, for health. These are windows for certain experiences. And the trouble is, you don't always know when the window is going to close until it's closed. That's why I want to talk about something the retirement gurus never mention. The possibility that you won't run out of money, you'll run out of opportunity. Let's talk about the future person you're saving for. They might never exist. This is the great irony of life after 60 and the retirement you dream of. You spend 40 years paying into a pension, and then you retire and spend the next 10 years trying to avoid spending it. Just a little longer, just a little more, just a little safer. But the person you're saving for keeps changing. Because here's the thing, the 85-year-old you, if you get there, and that's a whole different video, may not want the same things that 65-year-old you wants. And that's the part that most people miss. They assume they are saving for the same person. They're not. You change. Your motivation changes, your energy certainly changes, and the possibilities change. And if you don't factor that into the equation, you can spend years preparing for a future that never arrives in the form you expected. Let's talk about that trip that you keep putting off. I think we all know someone like this. They always wanted to go, they always meant to go, they always talked about going to Alaska, Japan, the Rockies, a safari, whatever it was. The dream never actually went away, but there was always a reason to wait. The price, the timing, oh, the economy doesn't look so good, what about the weather, oh, anything, something, always next year. And then one day, the decision was made for them. A health problem, a dodgy hip, they might need a new knee. And what does it lead to? A loss of confidence, a loss of energy, a loss of mobility, and suddenly the window closes. That's the thing about opportunity. It often disappears quietly, without warning. The tragedy isn't about money. The tragedy is missing the window. I'm as guilty of this as anyone. I learned this the hard way. I had health problems a few years ago, and I had to have my gallbladder removed. Look, it was nothing serious in the grand scheme of things, but it felt like it at the time. But for a while, everything stopped. Travel plans, eating out, normal life, things I took for granted, they just all paused. And once I was diagnosed, I couldn't even get travel insurance. And it reminded me of something. You don't always get to choose when a window closes. Sometimes life chooses for you. Every season has things that belong to it. This is something it's easy to underestimate. You assume your motivation stays the same forever. It doesn't. I don't know many 85-year-olds who are dreaming about taking a road trip through Spain and Portugal, or desperate to buy a sports car and do the Scottish North Coast 500, do you? Or tour New Zealand in a camper van. Those dreams usually belong to a different season of life. Autumn, not winter. And there's nothing wrong with that. The mistake is assuming that a season lasts forever. And at 65, the age I am now, it's autumn. At 85, it's winter. You may dream about walking the Camino, learning to sail, taking long trips, seeing parts of the world that you've never seen. But at 85, well, you may want something completely different. Just a quiet day at home, maybe a short walk, time with the family, just peace. Life has seasons, and the opportunities of one season don't necessarily follow you into the next. My Uncle Archie has taught me a few things about life that I didn't see before. He's 96 now and he's still here. He's not thriving, but he's still here. And he's taught me more about ageing than any book could. He retired at 63 and he spent his 60s out and about with my Auntie Jean, driving to the countryside for a walk with the dog, following it up with a pub meal at the end of the day, socialising at the local working men's club every Friday and Saturday, taking holidays abroad to Turkey, doing things, living life. Today, at 96, well, he's a widower. His wife passed away when he was 82, and his world is so much smaller without her. Over the last 13 years, his world has grown smaller and smaller. At first, he walked miles with his dog and he socialised in the local park. He drove himself to Tesco every week in the brand new car that he bought every March. He traded in the old one with 800 miles on the clock, and it was always a Nissan Duke. Now, he's outlived his dog and his friends. He can hardly walk without a walking frame, and hardly any distance at all without being exhausted. Driving his own car, well, that's a distant memory. Now it's just a chat on the phone and an afternoon visit. That's about it. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, come on, he's 96 after all. That's life, isn't it? But when I compare that to the man he was 30 years ago at 66, the difference is stark. It reminds me that life doesn't usually end all at once. It narrows gradually, year by year by year, until one day, if you're the sole survivor, you look around and realise the world has become incredibly small. Friends have gone. People you grew up with have gone. The restaurants are still there. The holiday destinations are still there. The money is probably still there, but the motivation, that's not. Neither is the energy nor the opportunity. And knowing Archie over the last 13 years, that's the thing that's really hit me. The problem isn't running out of money. He's got plenty of that. It's running out of things that you can do with it, because you can't do those things you once loved anymore. And that is a very different risk than you might believe at 65. The data actually supports this. There's a well-known pattern in retirement spending. It often follows a U-shaped curve. Spending is higher in the early years. Travel, experiences, meals out, hobbies, projects, life. Then something happens. People slow down. Not overnight, just gradually, like Uncle Archie. By their 70s, they're often doing a lot less. By their 80s, many people are doing much less. Not because they became cheapskates or frugal, not because they stopped enjoying life, because life changed, which means the assumption that you will need the same amount of money to live the same life at 85 is often wrong, because you won't be living the same life. I think of 60 to 70 as the early years of old age. You're still mobile, you're still curious, you're still very capable. You can still walk the streets of Rome, climb the Spanish steps. You can still carry your suitcase. You can still explore new places and make spontaneous decisions. You can still take that long-haul flight to Japan, stay out until the early hours drinking cocktail under a Mediterranean starry sky. Your 60s are where memories are waiting to be made. Not all of them, but many of them. This decade is so precious because it feels like it will last forever until it doesn't. And the cruel thing about time is you often don't recognise the best years when they are happening, only when you're looking back at them. Let's talk about the difference between security and delay. Now let me be clear. I'm not saying empty your bank account. I'm not saying you should be reckless with money. And I'm not saying you should die with zero either. Have you read that book, by the way? I'm saying something much, much simpler. Don't sacrifice today's opportunities for a tomorrow that may never arrive. Security is wise and it's necessary. And yes, it helps you sleep at night. But there comes a point where security can quietly become delay. And delay starts looking like prudence, when in reality it's fear. Fear of making a mistake, of not having enough. Fear of the unknown. And fear has a way of stealing years without you even noticing. I used to ask myself a question: can I afford it? That was always the first question on my lips. Now I ask this: will I still want to do this in 10 years' time? That question changes everything, because it introduces 4 things most retirement financial planners ignore: time, health, energy and opportunity. These are key to the season of life you're currently in. Remember I referred to it as autumn? You are in the autumn of your life. And once you start thinking that way, you realise that someday is not a date on a calendar. Someday is now. Now, a few years ago, my wife and I downsized. We moved from a large family house to a much smaller home here in the city centre of York. and I got rid of about 70% of my stuff. She got rid of 10% of hers. And do you know what surprised me? I don't miss any of it, not even close. In fact, I would go so far as to say life got easier, less maintenance, responsibility and admin, and a lot more freedom. I think about that every time I walk around the car boot sale with my wife on a Saturday here in York. Tables full of things that people once saved for, things they thought they couldn't live without. And where are they now? They're in boxes waiting for a new owner. And it makes me realise the thing worth spending money on was never ever possessions. It was experiences. The memories, the trips, the conversations, the days out, the things you can't sell for £1. Most people are terrified of running out of money in retirement, and I understand that. But here's the irony. Most won't run out of money. They'll run out of health, energy and opportunity long before they have any chance of running out of money. They will leave behind a healthy bank account full of money not spent on their dreams. The goal isn't to spend recklessly or die rich. The goal is to use your money while it can still buy the things that really matter. Because someday sounds like a destination, but for many people, someday just never comes. So here's my question for you. Is there something you've been putting off? A trip? An experience? A dream? Something you keep telling yourself you'll do later? Let me know in the comments. And if this video resonated with you, watch this one next. It's 6 things you absolutely should buy after 60. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.